Hello everyone and welcome to the first round of AOR Dirt Rally Season 3 for the Monte-Carlo Rally, the first round in a 6-event championship. And today the drivers will be tackling the icy mountain roads with the 2000s cars, the 2007 Ford Focus RS and the Citroen C4, which should offer much more grip than the Group A cars of last season. All of these drivers competed last season and earned themselves a super license to be able to compete in the top tier, the World Championship. There is a second tier, but that will not be covered as much in this series. This is focused primarily on the World Championship. So we should be seeing a pretty good fight for the title, with several drivers looking extremely quick from last season and also in testing. This round the drivers will be tackling the Valley Descendant course, which is much more difficult than the Prado dell'Arte, which was run last season, and that alone managed to claim 24 drivers in the first round of last season. So with much quicker cars and also a much trickier course this time round, we could still see plenty of DNF. So it should be an absolute cracker, and let's get into the racing. So on board with reigning champion Nico to start us off then, about to tackle stage 1, revving up to second gear, which is kind of bizarre to start in, but here we go then, and he gets us underway for Season 3. You can see in the bottom left graphic, he's driving for McRae Rally. There is now a slightly more complicated team system, but that will all be explained later as he's starting stage 1. The first few corners of the season, taking it fairly cautiously but very, very tidy, as you would expect from someone of his class. Pretty high gear selection, surprisingly, which is something that differs quite significantly from other drivers. But on the icy roads, not really taking any risks at this stage, not getting too close to the snowbanks or the cliff walls, and it's looking like a very, very strong start from Nico in this Ford Focus. Some pretty tight corners on this first stage, lots of the 1s and 2s, but it's been a very, very strong start, and that's kind of what you would expect from the reigning champion coming to this very, very difficult acute left, I think it's acute left, downhill braking, sliding on entry, and is pretty difficult to get right. But there you go, there's a masterclass in how to do it, and again for a right-handed one. Pretty tidy, no oversteer at all on the exit, very, very smooth driving style. So now on board with official AOR driver Lamrak. He is driving for the official AOR team, and they'll be looking to do pretty well considering it is their own league. So a little bit of pressure on his shoulders coming into this opening event, then looking to do well for the site, but pretty tidy through the opening corners. No real risks being taken by any drivers so early on in the rally, but slightly more aggressive gear selection than Nico, slightly more aggressive driving style in general. Also, he is in the Citroen rather than the Ford Focus, which may have something to do with that, getting a little bit too close to the outside wall, but just maximising the track. And it's been a very strong start from him. It's nice for the drivers to get a good start under their belts, to give them confidence going into not only the rest of this event but also the rest of the season, as he gets extremely close to that snowbank on the left hand side. But pretty strong start from the Citroen guy, not too bad at all, and then with a lovely cinematic coming into the hairpin, cooking it slightly out wide, but still pretty strong from him. Now on board with Race Fanatic, another Ford Focus driver driving for Ford Motorsport, and this is not the official Ford Motorsport team, but you get the idea. And coming through the first few corners, again very similar to all the other drivers, not really taking too many risks, but wanting to obviously get as good a start as possible, and using a bit of the handbrake, which is something we haven't seen too much so far from the two other guys. But I'm sure Race Fanatic will be looking to have a strong start and also try and match the other guys who have gone before him, and then following him from the tree line, very nice and tidy through this very, very tight stage. You can see from this camera angle how tight the stage is and how little margin for error there is, and also how poor the visibility is, how little the drivers can see in front of them. Stage knowledge is absolutely imperative, and again this lovely cinematic of the hairpin, very tidy from Race Fanatic. And then back on board with Nico a little bit later on in the stage, slightly more aggressive now, very, very bumpy surface coming into this hairpin, braking slightly too late, having to have a couple of bites at the turn and hitting the wall actually on the outside. So a slight mistake from the reigning champion, but nothing too major, and you can really tell from that few corners how bumpy it is and how easy it is to lose control of the car. And then on the ice as well, particularly, well, I said he messed up the last hairpin, but there you go, have a look at that one. That was absolutely beautiful. Now on board with Alex, who is, you'll probably already be able to tell, driving in VR, which is an interesting thing to do. It's definitely going to provide us with an alternative perspective for some of these rallies, but he's using the PSVR headset, which I don't know whether that will provide him with an advantage or not. It must be. It's definitely something very different, but obviously Alex is more well known for his exploits in the F1 leagues, currently challenging for the PS4 F1 title, but still obviously very handy at Dirt Rally, managing to qualify for a super license last season, and it's been a pretty strong start from him. Despite our slightly strange point of view of his stages, it definitely provides something different, but I don't know whether it's something I would go for. Anyway, it's another strong start from Alex, and you can definitely see elements of his F1 driving style in this stage as well. Slightly going too late on the brakes into the hairpin, but that won't have cost him too much time. He is very smooth driving style, and that is really coming through. And then back on board with Lamorak, he had a slightly scrappy first few corners, but that's extremely aggressive, yanking the handbrake, hitting the wall, and now he's got to do a 3-point turn. Has he to get out? He's stuck against the wall. He's had to put it into reverse, and it's the first major mistake we have seen from anyone so far, and that will rattle him a little bit. I mean, he was clearly pushing quite hard and just slightly too hard. He's made another mistake a few corners later, smashed into the wall on the inside, sending him into the wall on the outside, and his Citroen is now wingless. Not that that'll affect him too much, but that will definitely have knocked his confidence slightly, and not the greatest of starts on stage one. You really want to be keeping it as clean as possible so early on in the rally. But now back on board Race Fanatic, he's smacked the inside wall and the outside wall as well. He's made a similar kind of mistake to Lamorak, but not quite as extreme, and although that won't be very good for his confidence and his mindset going into the rest of the rally, that probably won't have cost him too much time, but I doubt it will have cost him too much damage either, as Nico is coming to the end of the stage. It's been a steady start, not the quickest of times, but still a pretty solid start to the season for the McRae driver. 6:44 on the opening stage, and now coming with Alex through the final few corners of the stage. It's been very tidy from him, apart from that small mistake we saw early on through the acute left. Braking on the ice is always going to be very difficult, and it's obviously something you don't get very often in F1, so a slightly new experience for him, but coming through this hairpin pretty tidy as well, having a few bites at the handbrake. I mean, 3 different occasions he went on the handbrake there, which is slightly different, as he's gone over the overhang quite sharply there. It was a strange corner, but he's negotiated that fairly well, as we're back on board with Race Fanatic, recovering well from that early knock he suffered a few corners ago. I would assume it's not that long ago, but again, you can see how poor the visibility is. We literally cannot see a thing from this camera angle. The snow and ice is being kicked up from the back of that focus, but following him through this stage, he's been a pretty strong start. Apart from that minor error, it's looking like Race Fanatic has had a very strong start, and he will take the rally lead at the end of stage 1. So back on board with Alex, he's coming through the final few corners, making a little bit of contact with that wall as well, but it's been a strong start for Alex, and it's probably a good platform to build on, to say the least, and he'll be looking for a little bit more in the next few stages. He clips the wall on the inside, but manages to finish the stage with no major dramas, which I'm sure he'll be relieved about. A little bit slower than Nico, but not too much, and I'm sure he'll be very happy with that one. So a strong start from plenty of drivers in stage 1, and it is Race Fanatic who will take the rally lead after stage 1 with a 1.5 second lead over Bands in 2nd place, with Nico 10 seconds off the pace in 6th and Lamorak in 10th, a little way off the pace, 20 seconds off, with Alex in 14th, a little bit further away. But now it is time for stage 2. So now our first on board with other official AOR team driver of Bands, who's had a pretty strong start, sitting in P2 after stage 1, so we'll be looking to build on that in stage 2, which is essentially half of stage 1. So all the drivers should be very familiar with this course already, and you can see that from Band's point of view. He is pushing pretty hard through these first few corners, getting very close to the snowbank on the left hand side and actually brushing it up a little bit, which won't cost him too much time. Obviously, it's not ideal as you lose a bit of speed, but it won't cost him too much. They can be very treacherous, particularly more so in Sweden probably. But now our first on board of Tiger Kart, who managed to qualify with a super license last season, will be looking to build on his strong but not particularly competitive start last season. He was up there pretty much always in and around the top 10, but never challenging for victory, so maybe that's something he could build on for this season. But it looks like it's a pretty strong start for him in that AMD liveried Ford Focus in the first few corners of stage 2. Now on board with Jordan McGonigal, I've just absolutely butchered his name, but you can see it in the bottom left, and it's pretty simple start for him. He's been alright in stage 1 and is going to be pretty strong, you would imagine, in stage 2 as well. All the drivers will pretty much know these stages like the back of their hand. The stage knowledge is absolutely crucial, but obviously having driven this stage moments ago in stage 1, they should be fairly up to speed with what is going on this stage, and it's looking like a very strong start from Jordan on this stage. Pretty tidy, no real mistakes, not getting anywhere near the snowbanks on the outside, not getting anywhere near the cliff faces on the inside, so it's been a strong start for him and looking like a pretty tight line through that corner, but still no major issues. Now back on board with Bands through that hairpin, beautiful line through there on the handbrake, sliding it around the corner, beautifully executed hairpin from him, and it's looking like a strong start from both AOR drivers. They're both in and around the top position, so they could be on for a good result in not only in the drivers but also in the team championship. And I should probably mention that the stage conditions even are the same in stage 1 and stage 2, so there's still some very poor visibility and also some pretty poor road conditions as well. But back on board with rally leader Race Fanatic, he was absolutely flying in stage 1, so you would imagine he would be absolutely flying in stage 2 as well, coming through this hairpin. Pretty tidy, a little bit too wide on the exit, but nothing too major from him. And he continues his strong start. But now on board with C. Fogarty, I think is how you say his name, coming through here. He's brushed the wall on the outside, he's hit the wall on the inside, he's hit a sign, and he's gone barrel rolling off the side of the road, and that is his rally over before it's even really started. To DNF so early on is not what he will have wanted so early on in the season as well. I mean, stage 2 of the entire season to DNF is not what you want at all, and it was a very spectacular crash as well. Now back on board with Alex, a strong-ish start on stage 1 and it's continued on stage 2. Although that is a bit of a moment, he's overcooked it massively around that corner and is now going to have to get himself out of a very tricky position. I have no idea how he's managed to get himself wedged between both walls. That is quite impressive, but he's managed to get himself out of it and is finally back going again. So back on board with Tiger Car, a strong start in the first few corners, he's continued that and is looking for a strong result on stage 2, but that's very late on the brakes, steams into the wall, and I absolutely commentators cursed him. But coming around the final few corners across the finish, a tidy stage from Tiger Car, and his strong start continues. It's 4:23, which is pretty much on par with what we've been seeing from some of the other guys. But now on board with Epileptic Toast, which is an absolutely stunning name, and he's driving for Team Lamppost as he makes a little bit of a mistake at the hairpin, having to kick it into reverse. But the name Team Lamppost comes from one of the braking markers around the Malaysia F1 circuit, which is slightly odd, but if you know, you know. But back on board with Jordan McGonigal at the end of the stage, we clips the penultimate finish line barrier thing, which has done a little bit of damage to the front of his Focus, but nothing too major. So pretty much everybody continuing their strong starts. The only major problem we've seen was Alex's crash, and then also C. Fogarty launching himself off the cliff in spectacular fashion. So continuing now on to stage 3, on board with Race Fanatic once again through that hairpin, beautiful line. This time we have snow, so the visibility is going to be even worse than the mist on stage 1 and 2. But Race Fanatic, he was fastest once again on stage 2, and he'll be looking to build on that here in stage 3. Again, it's looking very tidy from the fin, and it's looking like a strong start to the season for him. Reigning champion Nico, I seem to say that way too many times, but coming through stage 3, you can see how little grip there is on this surface. There is so much precipitation coming down, sliding through the corner beautifully, hitting the apex nicely. And again, Nico's having a strong but unspectacular start. He's not quite as quick as Race Fanatic, and he's a little way down the standings, which is not quite what you would have expected. And he's very smooth on the power as well, not really getting any oversteer out of the hairpins whatsoever. But you can see from Lamarak's windscreen, he has been in the wars a little bit in the first 2 stages, and he's had another incident into the hairpin. He has absolutely steamed into that corner, got on 2 wheels on the snowbank around the outside. That has absolutely saved him from falling off the cliff though, and he survives to fight another day. But on board with Addictive Penguin, teammates with rally leader Race Fanatic, and it's been a solid start from him. We haven't really seen too much from him in the opening 2 stages, but he seems to be very quick, and he's had no major mistakes of note as of yet, so it's looking good for this driver as well. So pretty much everybody has managed to get it clean through these first few stages, which kind of shows the caliber of driver we have in this top tier. Now back on board with Tiger Car. We mentioned before he had a decent start in the first few stages. Can he continue that in stage 3? It's looking like we haven't really seen him make any mistakes, and that's very sideways. Exquisite car control though to manage to keep that out of the wall. He's brushed the snowbank on the outside, but again, that won't cost him too much time. It's a minor mistake. It's better than steaming off the face of the cliff. And now back on board with Nico, coming to the end of the stage. Another strong result from him. Again, no issues, but it is not quite as quick as some of the other drivers. So he's got a little bit of work to do in the second half of the rally, but back on board with Epileptic Toast. And it's been pretty strong from him. We haven't seen him have any major issues really either. So again, he's looking in a very good position for the rest of the rally, but there are some very difficult stages to come after this one, so it is too late to say what could happen. But that's a very tricky final corner, actually. It's extremely easy to punt that finish barrier out of the way, but it is Race Fanatic who has a 5-second lead over Bands at the top of the timesheets, with Epileptic Toast in 3rd place, then Jared in P4 and Nico down in P5, a little way off the top spot actually, which is maybe not what we expected, with VBR Swift in P8 and then Addictive Penguin, another very good name in P9, Tiger up in 10th, strong start from him, Jordan McGonigal 11th and Lamorak in P12. So all these guys having fairly competitive starts. We've seen a few minor crashes but nothing too major. Then Alex in P13, Edwin Simo in P14, Otranto P15, and then Fogati, Tira Axemen both failing to complete the first 3 stages, and Supernova not able to make the start. But on to the second half of the rally, and again, this is a stage that's very similar to stage 3, so most drivers should know pretty much what is going on here. On board with rally leader Race Fanatic, he's had such a strong start. He's absolutely streaking away with this one, although in rally terms 5 seconds is really not that much. That could be one mistake really, and that could be gone in the blink of an eye. But on board with Bands, the guy who is challenging him up at the top of the standings, a very, very strong start from him. And then it's looking to be much of the same in stage 4. Pretty tidy hairpin, pretty tidy everything really from him. And then back on board with Alex through this hairpin. Again, having to take multiple bites at the handbrake, which is something a little bit odd, something I don't really see very often. But Alex has managed to negotiate that fairly well, and now back on board with Nico. He seems to carry so much speed, but he doesn't have a very aggressive driving style, and I think that is what is suited around the streets of, well, I say the streets, the roads of Monaco. And coming to the end of the stage, it's pretty good from him, and then up to the line, it's a very competitive time once again, as you would expect. So once again, tidy but unspectacular from Nico, and then back on board with Race Fanatic. Again, the visibility really is not very good, as you can see from this far chase cam following him through these tight and twisty roads in the mountains. And again, it's a strong stage from Race Fanatic. Then how can Bands bounce back? He is slightly behind Race Fanatic in the standing, so if he can get a good stage, he's probably not going to be able to take 5 seconds out of him on one stage alone, particularly as Race Fanatic has had no real issues. So coming up to the line, again, Bands is very, very strong, and the gap to Race Fanatic has pretty much maintained. And then Nico coming to the end of the stage, he's again tidy but not particularly spectacular as we come to these very, very tight few corners. So again, he's looking in a good position for the rest of the rally, and anything could happen in the final 2 stages. It is never over till it's over. So he could be looking to make something, maybe a late charge, but that's possibly a little bit optimistic. And then on to stage 4, 5 and 6. Pretty much all, well, 5 and 6 in particular are extremely difficult, as they are night stages, which is just adds something else to the mix. And particularly with Lamorak's smashed windscreen, this is going to be extremely, extremely interesting to see, as he gets a bit of oversteer over a bump. It seems he's hit the inside wall, and it's been a very, very scrappy start already. Obviously, in the dark, stage knowledge comes into it even more, so the guys who do more practice for these stages will have more of an advantage. He gets very close to the wall on the left hand side there. But back on board with Jordan McGonigal, he's had strong results in the first few stages, and then through this tunnel, his headlights illuminating everything. If you lose your headlights, you are absolutely stuffed. There is very little hope of you doing much good left in the rally if you lose those headlights. They are absolutely crucial in these conditions. But very tidy hairpin, and through this double hairpin here, first gear, quite tidy. Not probably the best line to there, but again, it is very, very tidy from him. And then on board with Alex, taking that same corner very nicely, and then into the next hairpin. Are we going to see multiple bites at the handbrake once again? He's got a slightly odd driving style compared to some of the other guys, and there you go, the traditional 2 attempts at trying to get the back end to step out, and it's been not the quickest, but again, it is very, very steady from Alex, and managed to keep it out the wall pretty much since that one incident we saw him have earlier on. So a good start from him, and it's looking like he's going to have a strong finish as well. But on board with Lamrak once again, and it looks like he's managed to keep it clean up until now, but the hairpin, he's turned it slightly too early. I think he's hit a wall on the inside. It's kind of hard to tell from this camera angle, but he definitely hit something, and there was definitely a puff of snow thrown up there, but he's managed to keep it fairly clean. I think he's just punted again that yellow penultimate finish barrier, and that's exactly what Jordan McGonigal has gone and done as well. But again, all of these drivers pretty tidy through their only minor mistakes and no major crashes like we saw earlier on, which is slightly surprising considering it is a night stage and we've seen people bin it in the day. But on to the final stage, stage 6, one of the longer ones. We run the first 2, last and first stages even are longer than the rest of them, so plenty could change on this final stage as we're on board with Tiger Kart once again. You can see that even though it's night, the visibility isn't that bad with the headlights. They do illuminate a lot as he gets very close to the wall, having multiple taps with that cliff, but managing to keep it out of the cliff essentially, and he's managed to keep it going, and not a major crash yet for Tiger Kart. It's been very impressive, very strong, very tidy, very neat, as you would expect from Tiger Kart. So on board with Nico then, he's got a bit of work to do in this final stage. He's got quite a large margin to catch to the front guys, so are we going to see some more risks taken from the reigning champion? He's got a lot of work to do, and it's looking like again a strong start. This slightly smoother driving style than most of the other drivers, higher gear selection, and that is quite odd compared to what we see from a lot of other guys, particularly Race Fanatic, who seems to use much lower gears, attack the corners a lot more, and that is definitely working for him in this first round of the season. But into the hairpin again is a beautifully executed line, using the handbrake, kicking out the back end and sliding it with all-wheel drive, of course, around the corner. But again, it's always been very, very tidy from Race Fanatic. We haven't seen him make one mistake really since stage 1 when he had that minor incident with the wall, but again, it's very, very strong from Race Fanatic, and he is looking good to win this rally as we're on board with Lamarak now. He's absolutely flying through this section of corners. It's an extremely quick stage. It's all about commitment through all of these corners. You've got to know where you're going. You've got to know what is going on in front of you, as he's almost brushed that wall, I think, on the right-hand side, but not a major issue. And once again, Lamarak makes a bit of contact, but he keeps it going. And on board with Alex once again, you can see how slippy it is through this section. The ice is extremely treacherous, a little bit too much speed carried, and you are just going to slide really off the face, off the cliff, and that could be a DNF on the final stage, which is not what you want at all, having driven so much. And Alex up to the line, he is going to finish with a very, very strong result in the opening round of season 3, and it is a strong result from the guy using VR, which I still can't quite get over. But on board with Tiger Kart through the final few corners of the stage, again it's looking very tidy, getting a little bit close to that snowbank, but no major dramas as he comes around the final corner sideways across the line. Beautifully done from Tiger Kart, and again a very strong result from him. And then on board with Epileptic Toast, driving in a slightly more odd camera view. I mean, offset bonnet cam is not one that I'm accustomed to seeing very often, but it's been an extremely strong result from him. He seems to have a lot of pace this season, so he's going to be, I think he could be a contender for potential rally victories later on in the season. We're now on board with Nico once again through these final few corners, getting very slidey, but very, very close to the wall, not the wall, the snowbank even on the inside there. But again, very strong from Nico, but not quite good enough to take the rally victory today. It's been a strong result, a solid start, but I think it's not quite what he would have wanted, looking to start the season off with a victory. But again, Nico very strong, and it's been a very consistent rally from him as he punts the final finish barrier across into the crowd there for good measure. And now on board with Race Fanatic, he has been impeccable all rally, and it looks like unless anything major happens in these final few corners, he is going to pick up the win. He's been very, very quick, very, very consistent, and pretty much every stage he's been right up there with the best times. Every time we see him through one of those hairpins, he just is exquisite driving, unbelievable car control, and he has been the quickest by a little way here today in Monte-Carlo, and it looks like he is going to take the rally victory as long as he can keep it clean through these final few corners, which we've seen before with a couple of the other guys' point of views, that they are very, very treacherous. There is plenty of potential to go wrong, and you can see how narrow the roads are. One mistake sends you off into the forest, and that is the end of your rally, just corners before the end. But it looks like Race Fanatic is not going to do that. It's been a pretty much perfect final stage, as it has been the whole rally. As I said, we've only seen him make really one mistake, and pretty much perfect all the way through. Race Fanatic comes up to the line, and it's pretty much perfect in stage 6, and that is good enough for him to win the Monte-Carlo rally from just ahead of Bands. He's got about a 10-second advantage, which is quite a big margin. He has built it by another 5 seconds since we last checked the splits in stage 3. The Epileptic Toast in an extremely strong P3 with Nico in P4, Jared in P5, Jason McRae in P6, and Addictive Penguin, who also seems to be very fast, in P7, RC Walty-Saint in P8, VBR Swift in 9th, and then Tiger Car getting a top 10 in the first round of the season. Very impressive from him. Alex Akir in 11th, Lamarak for Team AOR in 12th. A good start from both the AOR drivers, actually. 2nd and 12th is a strong result, and they are going to be up there in the team championship most likely. But then looking at the second half of the table, Nid Trampson in 13th, Jordan McGonigal in 14th, and then Edwin Simmer also DNFing on the final few stages, as well as Steve Fogarty and TRL Axemen, who we saw go out early on in the rally, with Das Supernova not being able to make the start. And the driver standings, unsurprisingly, are exactly the same as the rally results. So Race Fanatic will hold the lead of the championship going into Sweden, which is a big advantage for the rest of the season, and he is definitely going to be a threat to challenge Nico for his current title. And you can see the point scoring system pretty much, I think it's the top 15 score points. So yeah, I think it's the top 15, but it's only the finishes that will get. So if you DNF but still finish, what? If you DNF but you're still in the top 15, then you're not going to get any points, is essentially what I'm trying to say. And then in the team championship, it is Ford Motorsport who have a commanding lead over Team AOR in second. Then the affectionately named Team Lamppost in third, with VBR Esport in fourth with 17 points. McRae Rally with only 15 points, and then Jap Sport in P6 with 14 points. So strong showings from all the teams pretty much today, and they'll all be looking to continue that next time out into Sweden. Taking a look at the overall classification of the Pro Championship then, and it was a French 1-2-3 and a 1-2 for PSRC Racing Team, whatever they're called, and 100 points go to RC Flume, and then 86 to RC Ben Kiwi. So very strong results from both of them, and it's looking like a very, very close field in the Pro Championship. I mean, P2 and 3 were separated by 0.4 of a second, which is an incredible margin considering how far the cars have driven in this whole rally. Because to only be separated by 0.4 is absolutely incredible, but it just shows how evenly matched all of these drivers are and how crucial it is to not make mistakes. And then the driver standings as well are exactly the same as the race results. So RC Flume will have the championship lead going into Sweden, and that will be a massive boost for the rest of the season. And it looks like both the RC boys are going to be challenging for the title, so strong showings from both of them. So to round off the video, taking some of the best crashes from this week. This is on board with Steve Fogarty, I think is how you say his name. But we saw this earlier on, and this was on stage 2, I believe, and this is where he just clipped the wall on the outside and then hits the sign or something, and then just gets sent into orbit, barrel flipping over the snowbank and then into the trees, and that was the end of his rally extremely early on. That must have been so frustrating because he was just a passenger from the moment that he hit the wall. But then this is on board with Joseph Willows, a Pro Championship driver, I think, and then coming into the hairpin, he just doesn't brake, and yeah, gets ramped off the snowbank and into a tree. And then this is on board with the PNK, another Pro Championship driver, making an excuse about his mum entering the room as he hits the cliff wall, then another wall, and then another wall, and then again another person to go barrel rolling off the face of the cliff. And that was the end of his rally. And then on board with myself in the Pro Championship, hitting the wall, going up on 2 wheels, and then completing a full 360-degree flip coming into the hairpin, which was quite spectacular and also extremely scary. But this is Lamrak, who got completely 90 degrees to the ground and somehow didn't roll. We didn't actually see this earlier on, but this is quite incredible. Look how sideways his car is, and somehow he manages to avoid rolling that. His driver actually braced for impact and everything, but he managed to be able to fight on. And next up we have Sweden. So thank you all very much for watching this rally. It's something a little bit different to AOR, and I hope you all enjoyed it as much as I did. I've been Ali, and I will see you next time.